Jai Saparikashi Shri Guru Gaur Chandraju Ki Jai. Jai Shri Giriraj Govardhanju Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramhansa Parivrajakaacharya Astater Sita Shri Sriman Srila Bhakti Sundar Govindadev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramhansa Parivrajakaacharya Astater Sita Shri Sriman Srila Bhakti Rakak Sri Dardev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Welcome to Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mission morning class. Dandavat. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jata Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitangstam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vidangscha Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam. Jai. Continuing to read Sri Chaitanya Charitamrta. This is the Adi Leela Volume 1, and we're on chapter number 7. Lord Chaitanya in 5 features. And Mahaprabhu is continuing to reveal the self-evident truths of the Vedanta Sutra to the Mayavadi sannyasis of Varanasi. Jai Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Ki Jai Srila Om Vishnupad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. We're on text 147. Emata sarva shutrera vyakyana shuniya shakala sannyasi kahe binaya kariya. When all the Mayavadi sannyasis thus heard the explanation of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on the basis of Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojan, they spoke very humbly. Vedamaya Murti Tumi Sakshad Narayan Kshama Aparada Purveje Kailun Nindana. Dear Lord, dear Sir, you are Vedic knowledge personified and are directly Narayan himself. Kindly excuse us for the offenses we previously committed by criticizing you. So Srila Prabhupada is saying, we are propagating the Krishna consciousness movement simply by following in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We may not be very well versed in Vedanta Sutra aphorisms and may not understand their meaning, but we follow in the footsteps of the Acharyas. And because of our strictly and obediently following in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it is to be understood that we know everything regarding Vedanta Sutra. Say haite sanyashira pirige lamana Krishna Krishna nama sadakara ye grahana. From that moment, when the Mayavadi sannyasis heard the explanation of the Vedanta Sutra from the Lord, their minds changed. And on the instructions of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they too chanted Krishna Krishna always. The thing that they criticized him for, they were doing that. Emate tan sabara kshami aparada sabakare Krishna nam karila prasada. Thus Lord Chaitanya excused all the offenses of the Mayavadi sannyasis and very mercifully blessed them with Krishna nam. So he was not resentful of them. He always Krishna is always looking for an opportunity to give his mercy to the fallen souls, especially Mahaprabhu is in his form of Mahaprabhu. So Srila Prabhupada, who was a great, great preacher, he's saying, this is an example of preaching. Apani achari bhakti shakai mushabare. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu teaches us that those whom preachers meet are almost all offenders who are opposed to Krishna consciousness. But it is a preacher's duty to convince them of the Krishna consciousness movement and then induce them to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Our propagation of Sankirtan movement is continuing despite many opponents, and people are taking up this chanting process even in remote parts of the world like Africa. By inducing the offenders to chant the Hare Krishna mantra, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exemplified the success of the Krishna consciousness movement. We should follow very respectfully in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya, and there is no doubt that we will be successful in our attempts. Tavish abasanyasi mahaprabhu kelaya bhikshakari lena shabe majje basaya. After this, all the sannyasis took the Lord into their midst, and thus they all took their meal together. Previously, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had neither mixed nor talked with the Mayavadi sannyasis, but now he took lunch with them. It is to be concluded that when Lord Chaitanya induced them to chant the Hare Krishna mantra and excused them for their offenses, they were purified, and therefore there was no objection to taking lunch or Bhagavad Prasadam with them, although Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu knew that the food was not offered to the deity. Mayavadi sannyasis do not worship the deity, or if they do so, they generally worship the deity of Lord Shiva or the Panchopashana, Lord Shiva, Lord Vishnu, Durga Devi, Ganesh, and Surya. Here, we do not find any mention of the demigods or Vishnu, and yet Lord Chaitanya accepted food in the midst of the sannyasis on the basis that they had chanted the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and that he had excused their offenses. Otherwise, we are not mixing and eating with just everyone. That is a fact. Whatever, and if we're in a situation where we have to take something, some outsider, anything, we will offer it to Gurudev. Either, in our mind, but we're always offering the food that we eat. Bhikshakari Mahaprabhu Aila Basakara Hena Chitra Lila Kare Goranga Sundara. After taking lunch among the Mayavadi sannyasis, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is known as Gaura Sundar, returned to his residence. Thus the Lord performs his wonderful pastimes. Chandrasekhar Tapanamisha Arasanatan Shunideki Anandita Sabakaraman. Hearing the arguments of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and seeing his victory, Chandrasekhar, Tapan Mishra, and Sanatan Goswami were all extremely pleased. So Srila Prabhupada is saying in the purport, here's an example of how a sannyasi should preach. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to Varanasi, he went there alone, not with a big party. Locally, however, he made friendships with Chandrasekhar and Tapan Mishra, and Sanatan Goswami also came to see him. Therefore, although he did not have many friends there, due to his sound preaching and his victory in arguing with the local sannyasis on the Vedanta philosophy, he became greatly famous in that part of the country, as explained in the next verse. And of course, that also was the case with Srila Prabhupada. I mean, he came utterly alone. utterly alone to a foreign country with absolutely no connections and no money. And just the purity of his preaching and heart and purpose created such a phenomenon. Prabhu ke dekite aise shakala sannyasi prabhura prasang shakare shabhavaranasi. Many Mayavadi sannyasis of Varanasi came to see the Lord after this incident, and the entire city praised him. Varanasi Puri Aila Shri Krishna Chaitanya Puri Saha Sarvaloka Haila Mahadanya. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited the city of Varanasi, and all of its people were very thankful. Laksha Laksha Loka Aise Prabhu ke Dekite Mahabida Haila Dware Nare Praveshite. The crowd at the door of his residence was so great that it numbered hundreds of thousands. Prabhu Jabe Jana Vishveshvara Darashane Laksha Laksha Loka Ase Mile Se Stane. When the Lord went to visit the temple of Vishveshvara, hundreds and thousands of people assembled to see him. Haribol. So Vishveshvara is not is a deity of Lord Shiva. He is the predominating deity of Varanasi. But still Mahaprabhu went to that temple regularly, not to worship Shiva as a demigod, but to worship, just to show respects. Because no one is, and of course Lord Shiva is a Vaishnava, but beyond that, no one is disrespecting. The Vaishnavas do not disrespect the demigods. That is not, it's one of the offenses actually against the chanting of the holy name. So in the Brahma Samhita there are mantras Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, the sun god, Lord Ganesh, as well as Lord Vishnu, all of whom are worshipped by the impersonalists as Panchopashana. So we're not worshipping the deities who, in the sense of trying to get some material benefit from them, but offering respects. Because the Lord is, and of course when we go to, like for example, Galta, we're going and offering our respects to Suryadev. There's no reason not to do that, and it's good reason to do it. Oh, so these are these verses from the Brahma Samhita. Shristi Sthiti Pralaya Sadhana Shakti Rekha Chayeva Yasya Bhuvanani Vibharti Durga Ichanurupamapi Yasya Chachestatesa Govindamari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. The external potency Maya, who is of the nature of the shadow of the Chit potency, is worshipped by all people as Durga, the creating, preserving, and destroying agency of this material world. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, in accordance with whose will Durga conducts herself. Shirang yatada divikara vishesha yoga sanjayate nahitata pritagasti heto yacham bhutam apitata samupaiti karyad govindamari purushang tamaham bhajami. Milk is transferred into curd, which means yogurt, by the actions of acids. Yet the effect curd is neither the same as nor different from its cause, which is milk. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, of whom the state of Shambhu is a similar transformation for the performance of the work of destruction. Bhashvanyatasva shakaleshu nijeshu teja sviyankiyat prakatayat yapiptat vadatra Brahmaya esha jagadanda vidana karta Govindamari purushang tamaham bhajami. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, from whom the separated subjective portion, Brahma, receives his power for the regulation of the mundane world, just as the sun manifests a portion of its own light in all the effulgent gems that bear the names such as Surya Kanta. Jatpada Pallava Yugam Vinidaya Kumbha Dvanve Pranama Samaye Saganadi Raja Vignan Vihantu Malamasya Jagatrayasya Govindamadi Purushang Tamaham Bhajami. I worship the primeval Lord Govinda. Ganesh always holds his lotus feet upon the pair of tumuli protruding from his elephant head in order to obtain power for his function of destroying all obstacles on the path of the progress of the three worlds. As Srila Gurudev said, that Lord, the Lord who is putting his feet on the tumuli means the two hill, like little round parts. Gurudev said mountains. That is Lord Nishingadev. Lord Nishingadev is Ganesh is keeping the feet of the Lord on his head, and that is how he has his power to destroy the obstacles on the path of the three worlds, the mundane world. Yachakshu esha savita shakala grahanam raja samasta suramurti rashesha teja jasya gyaya brahmati sambrata kala chakro govindamadi purushang tamaham bhajami. The sun, full of infinite effulgence, who is the king of all the planets and the image of the good soul, is like the eye of the world. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, in pursuance of whose order the sun performs his journey, mounting the wheel of time. So all of these demigods, they're all in some ways representing the Lord. It is the Lord's potency which is being shown there. Snana karite jabe jana gangatire tahani shakala lokahaya mahabhide. Whenever Lord Chaitanya went to the banks of the Ganges to take his bath, big crowds of many hundreds of people, thousands of people, assembled there. Bahutuli Prabhu Bale Bala Hari Hari Haridwani Kare Loka Svarga Marcha Bhari. Whenever the crowds were too great, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stood up, raised his hands and chanted Hari Hari, to which all the people responded, filling both the land and sky with the vibration. Excuse me. Lokanistariya Prabhura Chalite Hai Lamana Vrindavane Pataila Shri Sanatana. After thus delivering the people in general, the Lord desired to leave Varanasi. After instructing Sri Sanatana Goswami, he sent him toward Vrindavan. After thus delivering the people in general, the Lord desired to leave Varanasi. After instructing Sri Sanatana Goswami, he sent him toward Vrindavan. So Srila Prabhupada is saying in the purport that the main reason, or the main desire of Mahaprabhu in coming to Varanasi was to meet Srila Sanatana Goswami and instruct him on Sambandha Gyan. And incidentally, he delivered all of the sannyasi, Mayavadi sannyasis, who were staying there, and everyone became a fully faithful of Mahaprabhu. The actual purpose of Lord Chaitanya's stay at Varanasi after coming back from Vrindavan was to meet Sanatana Goswami and teach him. This is an interesting point about Vrindavan at that time. Sanatana Goswami met Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu after the Lord's return to Varanasi, where the Lord taught him for 2 months about the intricacies of Vaishnava philosophy and Vaishnava activities. After completely instructing him, he sent him to Vrindavan to execute his orders. He sent Sanatana Goswami, after instructing him in Varanasi, he sent him to go to Vrindavan. When Sanatana Goswami went to Vrindavan, there were no temples. The city was lying vacant like an open field. Sanatana Goswami sat down on the bank of the Jamuna, and after some time he gradually constructed the first temple. Then other temples were constructed, and now the city is full of temples, numbering about 5,000. There's so many temples, small temples that you wouldn't even know are there, and big temples. Many wonderful things in Vrindavan that you don't necessarily see when you go there. You have to be with someone who is very familiar, because you could walk by just an ordinary door, and inside is an incredible temple, and meaning incredible internally. You wouldn't know though, if you were somehow or other informed about that. You wouldn't know. Some of them don't have even anything written on them to indicate. I'll never forget going around with Keshavananda Prabhu and just go in a door. He took me inside a door, and I mean, Bilvamangal Thakur's Samadhi Mandir was there, and another place. I mean, it's a really astonishing thing, Vrindavan, especially the old part of the city. And of course, Vrindavan is Vrindavan, but sometimes it's manifest to the people of the world through constructions and different kinds of things like that, and sometimes not. So when the Goswamis went to Vrindavan, it was just a forest, a field, and like that. And of course, Mahaprabhu indicated where Shyamakund and Radhakund are, and so many things happen. Ratri divashe lokera shuni kolahala Varanasi chari prabhu aila nila chala. Because the city of Varanasi was always full of tumultuous crowds, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, after sending Sanatana to go to Vrindavan, returned to Jagannath Puri. Jai. Ehlila kahiba age vishtara kariya sankshepe kahila iha prasanga paya. I have here given a brief account of these pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, but later I shall describe them in an extensive way. Okay, we can, there's only a few pages. Actually, we can finish it tomorrow, so. Haribol. Jai Shri Chaitanya Charitamrta ki Jai. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj ki Jai. Srila Om Vishnupada A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Shri Shri Upadesamrta ki Jai. Srila Rupa Goswami ki Jai. We're going to say ki Jais all day long. Oh my goodness. And now we're reading of course, continuing to read Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Divine Revelations on the third verse. It's Nishchayatarya Tat Karma Pravartanat Sangajagat Sato Vite Kabir Bhakti Prasidyati. Okay, so now we're on page 458 at the bottom. Number 4. Fable. One should not partially study and present theories regarding non-devotional texts. One should read texts in which pure bhakti has been taught and explained. The Vedas, Smritis, Puranas, Pancharatra, and the philosophical works of the Maharajas. Only futile arguments are learned from texts of other schools of thought. In other words, you just get entangled in a bunch of things, ideas that are not necessary to even be aware of, what to speak of, discuss. Number 5, in the lives of householders and renunciants, the necessity and endeavor for food and clothing will always remain. Therefore, in all such affairs, not becoming disheartened is necessary. Regarding this, it is written in the Sri Padma Purana, Alabdena vishateva bhakshya chadana sadhane aviklava matir bhutva haring meva dhyasmare. If in the pursuit of food and clothing these items are not obtained, or they are lost, remaining undisturbed, one should remember Hari within the mind. There is the plane of fearlessness. When you say at the feet of the Lord, there's no fear, Abhay Charan, then that doesn't mean that we go on with our materialistic thought process and suddenly we won't be afraid because maybe everything will be given to us or whatever. No, we won't be afraid because of taking shelter of the Lord. That's a very important practice for us. In so many levels, we do experience fear in this world. So many different things. Any question about that? The purport is that whether they live at home or in the forest, the sadhaka, you know this word?
Sadhaka is a practitioner?
Yeah. The purport is that whether they live at home or in the forest, a sadhaka will have to make some sort of endeavor for food and clothing. Householders should seek out food and clothing by engaging in agriculture, some sort of trade, protection of the public, or service to others. Renunciants should perform this task by begging. If in the midst of such activities food and clothing cannot be obtained or are lost after being obtained, devotees should not be disturbed. They should peacefully engage in remembrance of Sri Krishna, knowing him to be the cause of all causes. Wonderful practice. When householders lose their wife, sons, or others, they lament greatly. For bhakti sadhakas in such a situation, lamentation arising from the course of events should not remain for long. They should give up such lamentation within a short time and engage in cultivation of Krishna. If a renunciant's patched garment, water pot, or alms are missing, or if these items are stolen by an animal or human, they should not lament. Vaishnava sadhakas should give up lamentation, anger, and other urges. Otherwise, their constant remembrance of Krishna will be severely hindered. Sri Padma Purana has said, Sokamar shadibir bhavair akrantam yasya manasam katam tatra mukundasya spurti sambhavana bhave. How can Mukunda appear within the mind of one who is afflicted with lamentation, anger, and such emotions? How? How can Mukunda appear within the mind of one who is afflicted with lamentation, anger, and other such emotions? It's a really clear thing. But the wonderful thing is that by remembering that Krishna is the cause of all causes and fully taking shelter, all these things disappear. But it is a difficult thing to remember to do that because we just go into the rut of our normal habitual thought process. Under different circumstances. But these circumstances should be taken as our practicing field, and to see them that way. How am I doing with this? 7, persons endeavoring for bhajan should worship only Sri Krishna. They should not worship other gods, but they should not show disrespect toward other gods or scriptures either. So again, where did we just hear that? Where did we just hear about that? Just now, in Chaitanya Charitamrta, that Mahaprabhu was in Varanasi and he was going to the temple of Lord Shiva, Vishveshvara, I forget, but Lord Shiva is the predominating deity of Varanasi, and Mahaprabhu did not neglect to go and visit Lord Shiva. So persons endeavoring for bhajan should only worship Sri Krishna. They should not worship other demigods, but they should not show disrespect to other gods or scriptures either. Other gods are Sri Krishna's submissive servants, and understanding this, when one goes before the demigods, gods meaning demigods, one should offer respect to them. Sri Padma Purana says, Harireva Sadaradya Sarva Harireva Sadaradya Sarvadeveshvareshvara Itare Brahmarudraya Navagyeya Kadachana. Hari, the Lord of the lords of all the gods, should always be worshipped. Brahma, Shiva, and the other gods, however, should never be disrespected. Vishveshvara. So twice we've heard this name of Lord Shiva in 2 different scriptures this morning. So we're never disrespectful like that. But we're seeing everything in relation to the Lord. The purport is that the Supreme Lord is one, and all others are particular avatars of his qualities. According to a human being's eligibility or adhikar, these gods become objects of worship and are worshipped. For human beings in the mode of goodness, however, Sri Vishnu is the only object of worship. Can you understand why that would be?
Sri Vishnu is the only object of worship?
For those in the mode of goodness. Because they're not, this is the gradual thing, and then pure-heartedness arises from that. But those who are in the mode of passion, or those most influenced by the mode of passion, are worshiping the demigod in order to get what they want in this world. And the mode of ignorance, they're worshiping ghosts and all kinds of nonsense. But those in the mode of goodness, which means they're not attached so much to things of this world and results, then they naturally will worship Lord Vishnu. After many births, worshipping various gods, human beings' eternal good fortune arises in the birth in which they worship Sri Vishnu as the one Lord, as a result of their elevation amidst the modes of nature. Sri Krishna is the ultimate manifestation of Sri Vishnu. When the jiva becomes free from the modes of nature, nirgun, through the worship in the mode of goodness, then they attain the service of Krishna, which is completely beyond the modes of nature. Any questions about any of that? Then number 8, one should be merciful to all living beings and should not cause them any anxiety. The heart should always be full of compassion for others. Kindness towards all living beings is a special limb of Sri Krishna Bhakti. Persons endeavoring for bhajan should carefully practice this attitude. I'll read that again. One should be merciful to all living beings and should not cause them any anxiety. The heart should always be full of compassion for others. Kindness toward all living beings is a special limb of Krishna Bhakti. Persons endeavoring for bhajan should carefully practice this attitude. Number 9, endeavoring to avoid the offenses in service, save aparad, and the 10 offenses to the holy name, nam aparad, is extremely necessary for those who endeavor for bhajan. For devotees in general, there is some consideration of offenses regarding service to the deity. Avoiding all the offenses in service may not be possible for them, but when they go to Sri Bhagavan's temple, then some of the offenses that can be made in service must be avoided. So there is such a thing as seva aparad. And we should understand that too. Not to, to follow the basic principles of deity worship. This is very, very important, not that we're neglectful or dirty or and many, many things we have to follow correctly. And offering prasadam and carefully honoring the remnants of the Lord. We have to honor them. Not that, I've eaten this and the rest can be just thrown in the garbage. That is not good. We have to understand that the Lord and His prasadam are not different from one another. Many, many things like that have to be done. Carefully offering tulsi and honoring the remnants of the tulsi offered to the Lord. All these things have to be cared for carefully. And approaching the Lord in a mood of submission, so many things. And cleanliness is very important in deity worship. The 10 offenses to the holy name have been discussed in many places. These offenses must be avoided very carefully by all sadhakas. The endeavors for bhajan of those who slacken in this regard become useless. In Sri Padma Purana it has been written, Savaparada kridapi muchyate hari sangshraya harerapya paradanya kuryadvipada pangshana namashraya kadachit syat taratyesha sanamataha namnahi savasuhriddo hyaparadhat patatyadaha. All kinds of offenders are delivered by taking shelter of Hari, and two-legged animals who offend even Hari are delivered by Hari's name when they take shelter of the name. Two-legged animals, who would that be?
Two-legged animals? Humans?
Yeah, humans who have no action, which is exclusively human. In other words, they're doing exactly what animals do, maybe in a little fancier way, but no other purpose in life. They're called two-legged animals. They haven't reached full human consciousness at all. But they are also, I could say, are also delivered by the name of Hari. The name is certainly the true friend of every soul, but one will certainly fall down by offending the name. That is natural. If I'm offensive to a person who might have been my friend, who might be friendly toward me, I am cutting my own affection off. It is my fault. By cruelty, or some other thing, then that relationship will be very much harmed. And it is unthinkable to offend the Lord or His name, who's come in such a mood, such a magnanimous mood. 10. Sadhakas should not listen with their own ears to criticism of Krishna or criticism of the Vaishnavas. They should leave from where such criticism occurs. Those whose hearts are weak listen to criticism of Krishna and the Vaishnavas out of social regard, and gradually they fall from bhakti, saying, well, it would be rude to get up and leave. Social regard in that sense. By carefully honoring the above-mentioned 20 limbs of bhava, pure bhakti arises. Krishna's mercy is the cause of bhava arising. Without association of sadhus, one cannot receive Krishna's mercy. Among these limbs, taking shelter at the feet of Guru, receiving initiation, and serving Shri Guru are the basis of all the others. Any questions at all about any of these things? It's a lot, but these are really important points, my goodness. Among all the limbs of bhajan described after these, those beginning from wearing Vaishnava marks up to meditation are limbs of worship, archam. One should practice all these limbs of bhakti received from Sri Gurudev to the best of one's ability. Servitude, dasya, friendship, sakya, and self-surrender, atma-nivedan, are special activities that awaken bhava. When they arise in their true form, they are bhava. Only in the stage of sadhana are they counted as limbs of sadhana bhakti. So these, servitude, friendship, and self-surrender, are bhava itself. But they're considered to be limbs of bhakti, meaning practicing these things. But when they are fully awakened, then they are the essence of love. One should offer to Krishna everything that seems most desirable in the world and that is dear to oneself. There are many meanings of this. The purport is that rather than enjoying things because they are pleasing to oneself, one should offer them to Krishna and then partake of them as his prasadam. Not, I've got my stuff over here and then Krishna's stuff is over here. No, everything is Krishna's. Offering everything to Krishna, and then that is now prasadam. It is actually a source of joy and purification. But if I take it to be mine, it is a source of suffering and entanglement, the very same thing. Making as many types of ordinary and spiritual endeavor as there are for the sake of Sri Krishna is beneficial. Making as many types of ordinary and spiritual endeavor as there are for the sake of Krishna is beneficial. Sri Pancharatra has said, Lokiki Vaidiki Vapija Kriya 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 Temune Hari Seva Nukulaiva Sakarya Bhaktim Uchata. From the Bhakti-Rasamrita Sindhu. O sage, of the Vedic and social activities that are performed, one who desires bhakti should perform only those which are favorable to Hari's service. Any questions or anything?
No.
The purport is that human beings present in samsara should not engage in all the Vedic and social functions that they perform in a manner that is averse to Krishna. The purport is that human beings present in samsara should not engage in all the Vedic and social functions they should not engage in the functions, Vedic and social functions that they do in a way which is averse to Krishna. They should always arrange and perform all these functions in a way that is favorable to Krishna's service. Marriage and other sacraments, sanskars from the Smritis, are Vedic, Vaidiki functions, and all the worldly and bodily activities that are performed for the upkeep of people are social or lokiki functions. Marriage is for the establishment of a Krishna-centered family. Procreation is for increasing the number of Krishna's servants. Honoring the forefathers is for satisfying Krishna's servants. And feasts are for satisfying jivas that belong to Krishna. In this way, one should make all activities favorable to Krishna's service. If one does so, one will no longer fall into the karma kanda, which is averse to Bhagavan. So all these things can be done all these things can be done in a way that is favorable for a spiritual life and for Krishna's service. Or same things can be done in a selfish way, and that is very entangling. And averse to Bhagavan, somebody may say, oh no, I'm not averse to Bhagavan. But actually anything which is done not for Krishna, it is indicating some aversion to Krishna, because everything is Krishna's and everything is for Krishna. So it's not maybe something that someone professes, but if we do anything which is not in Krishna consciousness, this is indicating an aversion to Krishna, because Krishna is the center of everything. With this consciousness that the body and home, everything is Krishna's, one should maintain the body, maintain the home, and maintain society. This is known as Krishna-centered family life, or Krishna samsara. So, the jnanis want to get out of samsara. But the devotees, they don't care where they are. If Krishna wants, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur so famously says, Kita Janma. If I have to be born as an insect, that doesn't matter. But let it be in the home of a devotee. He's not trying to get out. He's trying to participate and then his eyes are open to the reality of existence. The entire life of a sadhaka should remain ornamented with surrender, sharanapati. In many places in the bhakti scriptures, the 6 limbs of surrender have been explained. Without surrender, the jiva's life is useless. It is simply a fact. It's just a bunch of activity and then death. But with surrender, then one is coming in touch with reality. His heart is awakening. He is finding his connection with the infinite Lord. Otherwise, what is the purpose of doing anything? The jiva should engage in bhajan for Sri Krishna and being ever surrendered. So bhajan, sometimes people think bhajan means just sitting down and chanting. But that's not, bhajan. Of course, that is part of bhajan, to sit down and chant these beautiful prayers that have been written by our Guru Varga and the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. But bhajan means to worship. So the whole of our life should be bhajan, in the mood of surrender. This is not a punishment. This is the best news ever. That simply through the practice of surrender, everything is accomplished. And correctly, all the miseries of the mental plane and the physical plane, the threefold miseries, they turn into something sweet through surrender. Everything becomes sweet. Every problem is solved. And we have problems maybe to solve in the service of the Lord. How is this going to be accomplished? How will I do this for Gurudev? These things you can call problems, and sometimes there's some endeavor there for sure. But we're taking all of the results of our endeavors in a mood of surrender, and thus everything is becoming auspicious and helpful in our spiritual progress. We're not going to see enemies anywhere. And it's wonderful. If we can simply remember this one thing, everything is wonderful. All the things that we're thinking are so terrible become wonderful. That is the most astonishing news ever. And if we want to keep on practicing Krishna consciousness without Krishna consciousness, which means surrender, that is our relationship with the Lord, then how will we make so much progress? So here, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying the entire life of a sadhaka should remain ornamented with surrender, sharanapati. In many places in the Bhakti scriptures, the 6 limbs of surrender have been explained. Without surrender, the jiva's life is useless. And this is understandably so. The jiva should engage in bhajan for Sri Krishna, being ever surrendered. Items related to Sri Krishna are called tadiya, or his own. Amongst the service of tadiya, or the service of those who are Krishna's, service to Tulsi is foremost. Sri Skanda Purana has said, Drishta sprishta tata dhyata kirtita namita shita ropita sevita nityam pujita tulsi shubha navada tulasing deving jai bhajanti dine dine juga koti sahasrani teva santi harer grihe. The meaning of that? The meaning is that if a sadhaka performs these 9 forms of service to Tulsi every day, they will attain the residence in Hari's abode. Sri Tulsi is served in these 9 ways: seeing Sri Tulsi, touching Sri Tulsi, meditating on Sri Tulsi, glorifying Sri Tulsi, offering obeisances to Sri Tulsi, hearing the glories of Sri Tulsi, planting Sri Tulsi, watering Sri Tulsi, and worshipping Sri Tulsi. So we are so fortunate. From the very beginning of our spiritual life, we are encouraged to worship Tulsi Devi. And I'm going to continue with that tomorrow. It is so fortunate. Even though our eyes, Srila Sukadev Goswami said, the eyes of those who cannot see Krishna and the devotees are like the eyes on a peacock feather. We can't really see. We cannot see divinity. But through service, something can awaken in our heart by the grace of those great personalities whom we are serving. This is so dynamic. We are not caught and limited by what is possible with our eyes, with these eyes. These eyes are a couple of holes in our head. They don't see much. Even materially, they don't see much. What to speak of spiritually? So we are seeing with our ears. We're seeing with the advice of our gurus. And by following that advice, we can enter into the life of that advice. We can enter into the life that they are, that advice is the open door to enter into something that is so dear and profound. But we must make some endeavor in the beginning. And we're thinking, oh, I don't know, it's just not natural for me, or something like that. That is, what is natural for me? I don't even want to talk about it. What is natural for the conditioned soul? Not in polite conversation. So we're hearing and we're going on in spite of the tendencies of the mind. And it takes time and practice. There's no way around that. But through surrender, all these different circumstances in which we are suffering will come to, those things will be burnt. Actually, instead of burning us, they will be burnt. Those tendencies which cause so much suffering in this world will be burned by going through that in the mood of surrender. Gone. Inconceivable reciprocation from the Lord. So let us be brave and continue on this journey together. Hari Bol. Jai Shrimati Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. We feel so blessed. We're just living in a Tulsi forest here. There's Tulsi everywhere. And she's so kind and so sweet. Just some little seva. And she's manifesting so wonderfully. Jai Shri Upadesamrta Ki Jai. Srila Rupa Goswami Ki Jai. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur Ki Jai. And Srila Gurudev, Srila Guru Maharaj, Srila Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Yadavaya Nama Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra Gadada Shiva Sari Gaura Bhakta-vrinda Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghuna Hey Jai Gosai Gauri Charanavanda Jai Te Vignana Shavista Pura Hey Jai Gosai Jammutarada Hey dance about a parade no more panchagra Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Jai Sapadika Shri Shri Guru Gaurachandra Ju Ki Jai. Jai Shri Giriraj Govardhan Ju Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupai Paramahamsa Srila Bhakti Sundar Govindadev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupai Paramahamsa Srila Bhakti Rakak Sri Dardev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Rupa Nuga Guru Varga Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Acharya Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Narottam Shyamananda Srinivas Thakur Prabhu Ki Jai. Sad Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Saparshad Sriman Mahaprabhu Ki Jai. Saparshad Shri Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Jai Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai. Tadiya Sakamat Ki Jai. Tadiya Sakamat. Tadiya. Tadiya means his. Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Mission Ki Jai. Kol Kartal Ki Jai. Hari Nam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Srimati Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Samaveda Vaishnava Mandala Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Nittai Gaur Premanandi Hari Bol. Jai Shri Gurudev Ki Jai.
Dandavat to all the devotees.
Jai.